After today's presentation, me and Mr. Giovanni will answer all of your questions that you might have. Mr. Giovanni, please start with the presentation of buy or build, finding the best core banking solution.
Hi everybody, hope you can hear me pretty well. Thank you very much, Soren, for the introduction. I wanted to introduce myself before we start. My name is Giovanni. I'm originally from Italy, born in Costa Rica, worked in the Latin American market until about 2 years ago, when I started working with Thoridian. I've been working mainly with the Mexican market in MFIs, credit unions, co-ops, also inside the US and Africa. And now I'm working with the team, serving the Philippines and giving the best product as possible to our clients in the Philippines and Africa as well. Moving forward, today's presentation, we're going to be talking about what is the best thing that we can actually do. It's the debate of if we buy or build a system. It's something that is going to be popping up regularly in financial institutions. And here, what we need to understand is what I want you actually to understand is what is the perfect thing for us. What is what we should strive to achieve? Should we build a system from scratch, or should we buy an on-premise system, or should we think about a cloud application? Today, I'm actually going to focus myself talking about building from scratch an application or buying a cloud system. I'm not going to be talking about on-premise system, basically because on-premise system, it's a mix of what cloud is and building. Why? Because on-premise is an asset of the institution. It has the same conditions as if you were build the system yourself. The only difference is what built by somebody else. So based upon this, I want to talk, basically we have two scenarios. One is an organization, a financial services organization that has a development team in-house, and another one that doesn't have an in-house development system. So the first thing that actually comes to my mind, or the first biggest question should be, what is the end goal of the system? What am I expecting of the system? So I think that one of the things that we need to agree, or that we should all agree when talking about buying or building a system, is either, no matter what type of organization, small, big, MFI, rural bank, whatever organization you are, you're looking for a system that actually will help you be more competitive in the market, and to have, and for the system actually to enable you to grow and to be much better in what you're currently doing. So this being said, we need to think about technology as an enabler for me to grow. When we're buying a technology today, or we're building a technology system today, we should think about it, not building it today with my capabilities today, or buy it with my capabilities today, but we should think about how the system will make me grow and how the system will make me compete. Then we need to understand, obviously, is this system going to add me revenue? Because right now I'm going to be able to issue new products. I'm going to be able to have a wide spectrum of products that will give me additional value or additional revenue to my organization? Or am I thinking about an immediate gain in efficiency and control over my operation, which will at the end beneficiate myself with additional revenue itself? So here, a perfect example with this is a taxi company. A taxi company doesn't build their own taxis. They buy cars and they adapt the cars to the services they actually give. So with this, I think that we can actually all agree that there are 4 big areas in which we can actually start deep diving and start asking ourselves a little bit more questions. These areas are complexity, requirements, budget, and time to market. So whenever we're thinking about either building or buying, the questions are the same. Just that the answer to these questions will allow me to understand a little bit better which is the best option for me. So let's talk a little bit about the complexity. So when we talk about complexity, I'm going to focus in 3 big areas. First is the system complexity. Here, what am I looking for? Am I looking for a system that it's basically a CRM that I can actually track my groups, track the different individuals, corporations, companies that are going to be working with me, and then I'm going to do everything through Excel? Am I looking for an accounting system or a system with an accounting perspective, or I'm looking at a system more to control savings account, debit accounts? What am I looking for? How complex is what I need? Second of all, let's talk about the organizational structure. When we talk about organizational structure, let's focus in how complex is my organization? Do I have levels in between my head office and the branches? Do I have area managers? Do I need to have departments, regions within that organizational structure? And I need those people that are in the middle to be able to visualize their branch or the spectrum of information. Or what is also where I want to be in 5 years? I've been talking about since the beginning, and the first things I said is the system should allow you to understand where you're going to go through. So right now I might have 2 or 3 branches, but I want to grow to 100 in the next 3-4 years. So how will the system enable me to grow to that size? Just to give you an example, one of our biggest customers here has more than 450 branches. And the smallest that we have, the smallest in size of branches, has 2. So that gives you an idea of how flexible the system should be. It should be flexible enough to handle either the smallest or the biggest. And one that not everybody looks into is with the complexity of the system, we need to think about who is going to use the system, right? My users are, how susceptible to change are my users? How will the new system or change into a new system will affect the users? What is the learning curve of those users? How knowledgeable are my users? So this is all things that we need to take in account, because otherwise the learning curve is going to be dramatic. The impact to the user is going to be dramatic, and the system should allow you to have a lesser impact with them. Then talking about the requirements here, we focus a little bit more in the stakeholders. We focus in what the stakeholders want, what is the support they are expecting, and how will the system enable them, keep saying it, grow. So let's think about this, and let's talk about a little bit of, for example, we have a system or an additional system, an offline platform that's called IFOA. And this platform actually allows our MFIs to visit their groups in their centers meetings, receive the payments in the field, and register the payments automatically into the system. This actually, it's something that is very nice, very cool to have, because it actually allows the customer in this, for example, this tough times, to have less iteration, less crowded people in the branches, and it actually takes the banking to the customer and removes barriers. So it's the same thing here. So when we're talking about who our stakeholders are, let's think about what they actually want, the people that are going to be working with the system, how they actually work, how what are their needs. And when we talk about support, is how will the system allow them, for example, if a person leaves, how will the system allow them to train a new person? How will the system help them and enable them to move forward? Then let's talk about, we need to talk about the budget. The budget is one of the most difficult parts because it's where it actually gets the most impact to the organization. So the first thing is the type of budgets that we have. So we have two types of budgets that we can talk about. One is the operational budget. This is basically an expense that you're putting in on a monthly basis or an annual basis, depending on the type of subscription that you're paying. And the capital expenditure, that is one that is actually very tough to have or to acquire, basically because of the fact that what you're doing here is when you're buying on-premise system or whenever you are actually building your own system, this becomes an asset of the institution. So you need to have in place everything related to the accounting and not just the system itself. So you also need to be able to have that capital of expenditure. Then the other area is for the budgets is when planning for budget, we don't plan, or you shouldn't plan only for a team of developers that will start working with the system. You need to think about not only the backend developers or front-end developers, but you need to think about also the infrastructure team, the team that is going to maintain the servers. It's going to maintain the system itself. For the infrastructure, you need to understand also the quality assurance department that you need to have in order to support that system and make sure that less and less bugs are introduced. Then also, in order to be able to manage the product and manage the stakeholders, you need also a product management team that will help enable, prioritize, and control the software that you're actually creating, or the software that it's actually, in this case, if you're creating. If not, it's the company that actually provides the system. And then let's face it, half of the budget that they actually produce, companies get, is spent in support. So actually, support budget is one of the most important ones because it's how we are going to be supporting the application. Usually, on-premise systems, support is something that it's paid in additional to what you have. Also, if you're building your own, support is something that you need to have people there. But when you're talking about cloud system, the support, it's implicit in the subscription. I do remember, for example, I can give you examples. I remember working when we were doing the implementation in a credit union in Mexico, in the northern part of Mexico, that that organization had a support team that supported about 20 different satellites that were connected to the core, and just that team to support that those satellites was about between 40 and 50 people dedicated just to that. So this gives you an idea of the support that an application needs. Then the last of the four questions, or big questions, that I want to tickle is the time to market. So what is the time to market that we currently have? Is there any limitations? Is the limitation that I have based on regulatory compliance? Is this because some type of result of an audit? Or let's think about it, the current situation of the world right now with COVID-19. Is it driven because the need of digitalization, where right now we need to be able to collect money because the need to collect money from our customers is still there? But we have the implication of social distancing. We have the implications that we cannot have a lot of people within our branches. So what can we actually do in order to go contactless, e-payments, and all these type of things that at the end of the day, it's going to help the financial institution? So what are these time stamps that we have? Or in the other side, I don't have a limit, so I actually can produce something in-house because I have enough time to create this on my own. So let's think about a little bit about the reasons to build your own solution. So first is no off-the-shelf system will cover 100% of the things a customer does. Oh, you're going to say, Giovanni, you're shooting yourself because you have your own system. No, it's true. Every organization does things with their own flavor. Every organization does those things or processes with a specific way of working. This means that no system will apply, and I would have to adapt some processes if I'm buying to the new system in order to adapt to that system. Another one is, for example, you see a business value in the future. So we're building something that it has a very solid architecture, it has a very solid security, it has a very solid processes in place, and we actually can see that in 3-4 years, when it's very mature, it's something that we can actually go ahead and sell and shift the focus of our system, of our business, from being a financial services organization to being a fintech organization. This is something that it's very unusual. You have actually a team of developers, a team of infrastructure, a team of product owners or product managers available in your organization with enough free time to start working in the system. And last but not least, and this is one of the most important ones, the know-how of what you do, what you need, the know-how of your stakeholders, the know-how of how they need it and how they like it. It's already inside the company, so you don't have to look or go outside of the company to look for that system. Now, when we talk about reasons why to buy an existing solution, let's face it, and this is something I think very clear for everybody. Building a software, it's expensive, complex, and time-consuming. So obviously, if you think about it, if you buy a system, you might think that if you have a very big team of developers, 12 months, you might have something that it's good enough for you to start working and start rolling out to your branches. And then you start implementing, you start putting in place everything, but it takes time. When you actually decide to buy a system and you start working and sign a contract, the implementation basically starts the following day. So instead of having to work 2-3 years to wait to have actually something, buying a system, basically the following day you start implementation, and depending on how complex your systems and your processes are, the rolling out will be smaller in time. Then the support the team needs. The support the team needs, it's not something, support shouldn't be only a person on the other side of the phone, on the other side of a computer, waiting for an email or for a call from you. Support should go further away. Support is, how does the system help, or how does the people in the organization of this, for example, in this case, Oradian, how does the people from support help you or enable you to move forward? Do they help you with creating reports to enhance your understanding? Do they give you tips and tricks? How does that work? For example, Zoran, it's the training lead. Zoran continuously posts the trainings within the user guides. We have webinars just like this, explaining new functionality that is released to all of our customers. And obviously, the long time value that the SaaS system will give you, right? SaaS, it's implied, it's something that it's pretty new and will continue to add value in the future. And another off-shelf software will have security and must-haves. Why is this important? Because usually, and you're going to see it moving forward, some comments about it. When you talk about security and building your own system, it's a given. You say, no, users are gonna access the system through a VPN. No, users are gonna access this through the intranet of the organization. So security becomes secondary. With buying a system, the security, it's already there. And it has other must-haves, for example, audit trails, breadcrumbs in each transaction, connectivity of each transaction, making sure that you can actually follow. And then talking about the next things, when we talk about ongoing enhancements and community value, the community value is not talking about your neighbor. It's talking about all the different companies that have or are working with the same software. In SaaS, community value is very important because one of the things is whenever I have to prepare my roadmap of things that we're actually going to be building, or whenever we look into what is the next big thing that we want to build in Aurelian, we need to think about what our community or what our system is actually beneficiated from. So we take all the ideas that all of our customer gives us, and we build some new and cool things, meaning everybody that has the system will be beneficiated of all these enhancements. And even though you're not expecting any enhancement, you get it automatically. Why? Because you're part of this beautiful community that adds a lot of value to you. Other things that you need to take into account when talking about benefit of buying your own system is, for example, benefits of the cloud. When we talk about benefits of the cloud, we're talking about high availability. So if your servers go down, you're in your organization, if the light goes out and you have a SaaS system, the light can go out and the system will still be available to you through a connection through tablet or whatever, and connected to a 4G or 3G connection through the phone. Also, all companies that are SaaS, they have a disaster recovery plan, meaning if something happens with the place or the cloud where the systems are being hosted, there's also replication in other sites in other parts of the world. So automatically, when one site goes down, the other site automatically pops up, and you never lose the information. You're not going to lose any data because all the sites are working parallel with the backups, with information. So you're not going to lose any information. Then backups are available to the customers, and you don't need to wait to somebody to actually start producing them. Obviously, since we're talking about cloud, we need to be able to have vulnerability scans and penetration and load testing in order to make sure that the system is up to date. And these are things that, for example, you don't see, because these are things that are viewed in an infrastructure level. This is why also I was mentioning before infrastructure, and it's one of the most important parts of the process. And last but not least is the compliance. So now let's talk about a little bit about common scenarios when you're building your own system. So when you're building your own system, the development team starts working with the specs that were given at that specific moment, and the specs changes, and the end result is a disaster. And you're going to see, I'm going to show you something later on that you're going to see a clear example of this. Then another thing is there's no such thing as free time in development. This means once a development starts and reaches the goal, the developers will jump immediately to a new project, to a new thing to create, and they're not going to have any time or free time to spare and go to the next development. Then a feature or a development that is done without the proper planning of upgrading and maintaining that feature will soon be obsolete. You're going to see it everywhere around, and usually you don't plan for those type of things when you're building your own system. And last but not least, without a proper management team within the development process, you're going to fall enough to the good enough functionality. Next, I was talking before about security being a given when we're building, usually when we're building our own, that you get things such like this. You create a very basic security that is easily, or it's very easy for people to move forward. And then on the picture on the left, you see very good specs of what needed to be done, very clear expectations of what was needed by our stakeholders, but there wasn't a lot of experience in the execution. So even though the specs were awesome, at the end result is a disaster. And on the right is basically what I was mentioning. There's a lot of changes in the scope of the feature, of a new feature, and if there's no control over it, you get a disaster in the development process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Giovanni, for a very nice and detailed presentation